Trina right here, and it is day 49, 365 days of realizations. So I'm in my own yard today, doing my own video for my own property. Just had a little walk around, and the sun is shining. It's a fabulous day. Oh, look, my kitty cat's in the background. She's so cute, my little mocha bear. So, what I want to talk about today is worthiness. And what's really interesting is I have come to the realization today that I think worthiness is going to be one of those lifelong, continuous expansions as we expand into really being to embrace and know who we are, to really being able to stand in that clarity of being an infinite being of love and light, of not being this person character, this Trina, not being what Bentino Massaro calls the controller, the imposter, what we often think of too as the ego. And what I think is really interesting is pretty much everything that we do, everything that we come up to, every decision we make, every leaning in we do is connected and related to the beliefs we have indeed. And where did those beliefs come from? So often the beliefs come from this part of us that is really not the part of us that we should be taking our advice from. And it is the part of us that is still dealing with that unworthiness. So here I am sitting in a place where I feel like vibed up most of the time. I feel so full of myself. I feel like so filled from the inside out, as if I know how to self-source, and I do, and yet I still find myself forgetting. I still find myself doubting. I still find myself having moments where I just, those other thoughts start playing out, and I don't always follow them. I'm often able to see them. I'm often able to be in awareness and look at them, but they still arise. And then to not actually want to act on them is challenging. I mean, sometimes it feels to the point that it's a contraction, and I think, well, what is that about? And then I go, oh, yeah, it's still another layer of what I call unworthiness. And sometimes I can't map it to anything. It's not clear like that. It's not like I know 100% what it's about. I just feel the disconnect. And remember, anytime we feel less than full flowing bliss, epic, infinite awesomeness, means that we are flowing in a way that is not in alignment with who we really are, that is not in alignment with our inner being, that is not alignment with source and how source would see us. We've fallen out of sort of attunement. We're not in the same frequency of our core, of who we really are, that is being infused all the time by our inner being. And it isn't that our inner being has stopped flowing, it's that we've decided to focus in a way that makes it impossible to feel that full flow. And what do? We put some kind of belief system in the way. And so, interestingly enough, I've been playing with, as you know, for the last few days, this idea, or weeks, this idea of what would our inner being believe about that? What would source think about that? How would source see that? Well, I was thinking about, when a belief comes, what if I was to simply say, so, that sounds like a belief that worthiness would say. So what would unworthiness would say? Sorry. That sounds like a belief that unworthiness would say. What would worthiness say in response? Which is the same thing as saying, what would my inner being say? But it's sort of really getting targeted, really getting specific around what it is that is moving me out of that connection with myself, because beliefs can do that to us. We decide in a moment, we feel that excitement, we're so passionate about something that we're inspired to do, and we feel like it's being called forth within us, and then we think, you know what, I'm invincible, I'm indestructible, I know that I am an epic being of love and light, so yay, ahead I go, and I start moving forward, just to bang into what Bentino calls the day two process, where we bang into this doubt, this sort of, and it seems to me that doubt, which is what it feels like, always stems from unworthiness and a misunderstanding of who we are, a misdirection of our focus in that moment. And so I think this new practice of saying, when something arises that seems like doubt, that seems like a belief that is mired, fully just the embodiment and full-blown expression of my unworthiness, to be able to stand in my firmness and say in my solidness, you know what, I know that I'm worthy. I know that I came so worthy that I don't have a thing to prove. I know that it was my birthright, that I just came as that infinite being, that source is wrapped around me, that anything I want to be, do, or have is possible for me. And that the only thing that could ever stop it is this belief that I have now identified as rearing its ugly head, and it's very ugly most of the time, this worthiness. And also to help remember just what we've talked about in other videos, or I've talked about, is that idea that it served us. I mean, all the beliefs that have come around us that say, hey, don't do that because you're not worthy enough, is to protect us. That's the place that it's coming from. That's the place where that controller, that imposter, that ego, that mind is trying to take us. And so in the moment, maybe there was a moment that served us. Maybe we were trying to reach for something that our belief wouldn't allow. We had a strong desire, but something in us, in that avenue, that area of our beingness, knew that we weren't quite ready. We couldn't quite sustain it. And so it wasn't going to go well. And it snapped into that protection mode. And in that moment, we then allowed it to make an impression. We didn't just let it be like the water that flowed through us and past us and went, okay, in this moment, I feel this, so I'm going to choose something different. We allowed it to then leave an impression, which then meant every time we wanted to reach for something bigger, bang, it comes up again and rears its ugly head. And so why not just see it and say, there you are again, showing up to remind me of all the times you've helped me and how much I appreciate and love you, unworthiness, for helping me. But guess what now? I've kind of outgrown you. And even though I know that you can never leave my vicinity completely, because you can never get rid of a belief, you can only just not activate a belief. It's still going to be there. It's just what do you choose to activate? I will love you and I will honor you and I will appreciate you. And then I'm going to make a different choice. So again, what would worthiness choose in that same moment so that I have that thing to move me into what I want to be? And when I think about when I just said, no beliefs ever you can't get rid of a belief in that sense. When I was just at Abraham Hicks on the weekend, they were talking about imagining there was a light board on the floor or the ground or wherever you're standing, this giant light board, kind of like a checkerboard, and it's got filled with all these little lights. And where you stand in any given moment, you are activating a light. So imagine that you're standing on the square that's lit up, because that's the one that you've lit up. Well, then what happens? Every other belief is going to be lit up on that panel that matches that. And so what do you want to do? Do you want to line up with beliefs that tell you you're not good enough, that you can't do it, that it's too hard, that it won't work out for you, that somehow you're the one person that source is not taking care of, that your inner being is the one inner being that's not lining everything up? Or do you want to let that go immediately, take an easy step over and light up a different belief that says, because as soon as you light up the worthy belief, the worthiness belief light will go off. And now you've got access to every possible belief that can take you to more worthiness. And your inner being is just lighting those lights up. But you have to be the one that in your focus stays there. If you oscillate and move back to the unworthiness, it'll just flip just like that. That is our free will. That is the choice that we have to make. So in any given moment when a belief comes up, just sit with yourself and be like, a number of things. Where is that belief coming from? Oh yeah, that's that unworthiness thing. I'm going to pick worthiness over unworthiness right now in this moment. I am also going to pick attunement. I'm going to pick what my inner being would see, what my inner being would know, what source is filled with. And source sees me as worthy beyond measure. So worthy that it wants to fall at my knees because it knows just how worthy I am. It knows that I am its physical representation, that I am source embodied. So all it can see is love and light, and all it can do is gush all over me, swirl up with me in my own beingness, because it knows so fully that that's who I am. And that's what I want to activate. And then every light on the light board is activated through that energy of source. So love is activated, light is activated, infinite potential, open possibility, continuous flow, lining up of every resource, every possible relationship and connection, and thought, which is super important, thought that can take me to where I want to go. That's what I want. So easy, and yet not so easy, because I do think that we are just constantly in a state of unraveling ourselves, of coming home to ourselves. There's some traffic going by, so I'm just going to let it pass and smile at you. There it goes. And just knowing so fully who I am. And I invite you to do the same thing, because those two things can't coexist at the same time. You can't be unworthy and worthy. You have to choose. It's one or the other, and you are free to choose. That is your right. That is your freedom. So free that you can choose epic freedom, infinite possibility, anything you can imagine happening. Because if you can imagine it, the universe has the wherewithal to give it, or you can imagine no freedom and literally down to bondage. So it really comes down to you, and it comes down to where you put your focus. We came to focus deliberately, and with our deliberate focus, to discern and to clean things up and to get more and more precise in what we're vibrating and what we're attuning. So this is what I'm going to practice on the heels of having some unworthiness stuff arise for me. I'm just going to keep standing in that worthiness and keep moving and moving and moving and knowing and just trusting, and also letting myself off the hook, because I'm going to remember that this is a ongoing process. It's taken me nearly 50 years to get to this level of unworthiness and then moving back into my worthiness. So it's a little much to expect that it's just going to go like that. And of course, anytime that I identify back with my person, it's going to come back, or it potentially could come back. So the more I stay identified with source in my inner being, the less it's going to take me. That is the journey. That is the joy. So I will see you tomorrow. And I just invite you to play in this. It's all just a game. We're just here to play. And if you have any comments, just put them down below. We could get a conversation going. That would be so fun. Bye.